All right, welcome to End Hype. I have a treat for you tonight. So I've got my man Tomas on here, and I was on Tomas's podcast just recently, and we'll get into it. But before I introduce you to Tomas, if you don't already know who he is and all the amazing things that he's doing, do me a favor and share this out, right? So we're going live right now. We're on Facebook. Maybe you're watching on LinkedIn or you're on YouTube. Share this out because this is going to be great, right? There's going to be some amazing gems, and this is how we grow the show. This is how we grow the End Hype movement. This is how we get guests like Tomas to want to come on here, because we're going to get him some eyeballs and some listeners and all that. So, all right, let's get into it. Tomas, what's up, my man?
Callie, sir, I'm doing well. And before we begin, I always like to start with basically telling you how damn grateful I am to be here with you today, sir.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. I've been waiting for this. I'm excited to have you on because I don't know, there's a lot to get into, and it's reasonable to assume that the majority of my listeners know who you are and what you're about. But for those people that don't, can you fill us in? What's the story of Tomas?
Yeah, sure. I started as a guy who barely graduated high school and went into blue collar trade. I started as a car audio installer way back in 1997 and loved it. It was my life. And fast forward, at the age of 21, I opened my first business because I thought I knew more than my boss. And in certain aspects I did, and it was a very minute area that I knew more than him. But it took some real world experience and learning for me to figure that out. And it was, I definitely chose the hard way to figure it out. Let's put it that way. So I started my first business at 21, fast forward 5 years from there, and it was burned to the ground and nothing was left. And the only thing that was left was about $86,000 worth of personal debt that I walked away from. But I wouldn't change it for the world. Definitely started making me who I am today. And I learned a lot very quickly. I didn't have a choice. Met some great people along the way, and went back to work for another gentleman for a couple of years to get back on my feet. And in, when was it? September 2009, started my second business with a partner, and we specialize in the installation of GPS tracking and dash camera systems. So went about that for quite some time. We hit the 5-year mark, and my wife says, "Hey, guess what? I'm pregnant." All right, cool. This is something that was planned. We were trying for it. And a couple days after that, it was like I was just hit with a lightning bolt, like a life-altering event that hit me. And it was like, hey, it's time at the age of 35, by the way. It's time that you start acting like an adult and start taking things seriously.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's when I started to really get intentional and focused heavily on self-development. Went out and looked for a business coach, someone who could basically, here's the deal. Like, I knew the business had a lot of potential. I knew that I wasn't maximizing myself. I was not working to my best ability, and I didn't know the next steps. I thought I got to a point where I had taught myself about as much as I could teach myself about business without going and finding out or learning from an expert, someone who's been there, done that. And that's what I went out searching for. And luckily I found it.
That's amazing. That's one of the top tips that I give people, because there's a lot, since I come from the manufacturing industry, and even not just manufacturers, but engineers, essentially same. You're a service provider, you're blue collar, right? Like, just because you went to school for engineering doesn't mean that you're not going to have the same, like, hey, I can do this better than this company. And then you realize, like, oh shit, like there's this whole running a business component to it, to having a service business that I don't know. And I've heard you tell the story a couple different ways. Mm-hmm. And it makes me think like, oh, well, this is why Tomas is a good COO now. Cause you've had that whole journey, right? You went from where a lot of people are to where they want to go, and you kind of got your teeth kicked in part of the way there. So, but my advice to people are like, how do I get started? And I'm like, you've got to find a coach, a mentor, somebody. I used to say, just find somebody that has a zero more than you, right? If you got $100, they've made $1,000, right? If you want to make $10,000 a month, go take advice from somebody that's making 10,000. It's making $100,000 a month. Like, they're just a little bit farther ahead from you. There's a temptation to watch a bunch of YouTube videos like Elon Musk and think that like he's your mentor. I'm like, no, go find somebody that you can actually go, share a cup of coffee with and listen to. So
yeah, have a real conversation. It's funny. I think of it the same way, because people ask me all the time, and I'm sure they ask you too. Like, well, what do I look out for when I'm looking to find a coach or a mentor to bring into my life? And my answer, and I like yours with the extra zero, by the way. My answer is, go and look for the person who's already accomplished what you're looking to accomplish. And that's the person that you need to hire.
Yeah. 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 I mean, there's lots of different ways of looking at it. I think I did like a little clip on this, but it's where people get messed up, or they think that somebody, because they're more successful, they're like, oh, they'll never want to talk to me. And I found it to be really, really true, is that the more successful somebody is, the more willing they are to pour in effort into people that are started, especially if they listen. So if somebody gives you advice, for everybody that's out there, if you go ask Tomas for advice, you ask somebody like him and he says, you should do this thing, go try it and then tell him how it worked out. Because then he's going to want to give you 2 pieces of advice, and so on and so forth. But
yeah, the action takers definitely get notice from people like us. If you come in and you ask a question, I say, hey, this is what I would do if I was in your shoes. If you go ahead and do that and come back to me and say, all right, cool, I did that, it worked, or it didn't work, cool, whatever, because not everything works for everybody. But what's the next step? I'm going to look at you a little bit different. And
so you built your business. You went out and you went out to go get mentors, coaching, community, and that kind of led you through a couple different things. And how did that journey lead you to where you are today with Apex and Break Free Academy and all the stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, great question. So I hired my first coach, and the first thing the guy had me do was read. He's like, you're going to work with me, you're going to read. And I hadn't read a book since high school. Here I am, 35 years old, and the only thing that I've read and put into my mind was installation guides, technical manuals, and industry magazines. I was very well versed and knew that stuff like the back of my hand, but I hadn't read anything to expand my mind and enlighten me and basically start developing me from a self-development perspective. So that was step one. Worked with that guy for a while, and he retired. Said, hey, I hate to break it to you, but I'm retiring. Can I go find somebody else?
You're doing great. I love working for you, but
yeah. And that was kind of like a kick in the teeth in itself, because was just kind of starting to get some traction working with that guy. He definitely opened a bunch of doors for me, and I think he was the right person at the right time. And when he said, hey, I'm retiring, it forced me to go look for somebody else. But it's funny, that person had already entered my life because of some of the work that the first coach had started me on. Yes. It's funny how that works. So start working with my second coach out of Long Island, New York, Mr. Dean Mercado, great gentleman. He owns Online Marketing Muscle. Great dude. I'll throw him a plug there. Still have communications with him today. He still does a lot of work on my website and whatnot. And he's just someone who he saw more in me than I was able to see in myself. Wow. And way before I was able to see it, and said, this is where you're going to be one day. And I hired this guy to coach me and my partner in my business. And he came at it with a little bit more of a, hey, I see something in you that's a little not normal in a good way. And I want to give you some extra stuff to do that's going to help you in the future. He goes, you're not going to realize what I'm doing or how it's going to help you, but make sure you start reading these kinds of books. Make sure you start looking and checking this kind of stuff out. Make sure you start developing your sales skills more and more. And I'm grateful for that, because, again, that right there was another stepping stone in my career and my path that led me to the next coach and mentor, which was Ryan Stewman. And he this guy Dean said, "Hey, I need you to brush up on your sales skills." And he drops me in this Facebook group called Sales Talk with Sales Pros. And a couple months later, a Sunday night, I'm spending $3,000 to join some Apex mastermind that I never heard of. So I joined and I started doing the work with all the back end online courses and started connecting with people. And I started seeing some pretty good traction. And the funny thing is this, and this is why I say business is universal, sales is universal. I'm in a deeply niche down business. I'm a GPS tracking installation provider. I install tracking devices and dash cameras in commercial trucks. I don't even sell the product. I sell the labor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we're doing well. We've got a 7+ figure a year business. And I start implementing these sales and these marketing techniques and tactics that this crazy guy named Ryan Stewman's telling me about on these videos. And this guy's a loan officer, or was a loan officer for years, a very successful loan officer. And the stuff that he's teaching me that worked to make him a millionaire in that space is now impacting and positively working in my business, which is in this deep niche. It's like, wait a second, if it's working over there for this and it's clearly helping me, let's keep at it. And I did. An opportunity popped up about a year after me joining Apex Entourage to hop on a private jet with him and fly down to the Bahamas and mastermind with him and about 7 or 8 other people for one day. I was like, that's cool. They kind of had me at the private jet thing because that was, kind of on the bucket list at the time.
I saw that recent trip. I was like, yeah. Next time that pops up.
October, we're trying. I'll keep you notified.
Yeah, my checkbook will pop up too.
Oh, yeah, that one will. Yeah. So it was $5,000 to invest into this journey, this trip for the day. So you know what, man? I don't know why, but I had this calling, this feeling like I should just go and do it, and I did it. Went there, and in the 7 or 8 hour period that we were together, the guy lined out the next 12 months of my professional career, and not necessarily from my installation company, but from me professionally. Hey, you need to put together an online course teaching this. You need to finish your book. This is how your book and your course and getting you speaking on stages is all going to come together and basically build you up as the authority within your industry. Well, wouldn't you know, it worked. I followed the advice from the guy who's been there and done that about 100 times over, and it worked. So started speaking on stage, started, getting asked by other people for advice. Hey, what do I do when this situation arises? Put together a very successful Facebook group for the GPS tracking industry. And I started having all of these other business owners and leaders within the industry reach out to me and say, hey, I'm stuck. How do I fix this? What do I do? And I got to a point where I was like, wow, I'm doing all this work on me, and I'm finding it very easy to help these other people overcome some of these roadblocks that they're facing in their businesses. And I really like it. I like helping people. Matter of fact, I start liking it more than the business that I have. Mm-hmm. So this is where it starts to shift for me. I got this pivot. So I start basically, I'm losing my passion for the mobile electronics industry. Now, mind you, I'm fast forwarding here. This November, I exited Top Class Installations. It was my 23rd year in the mobile electronics industry. Okay, I've been there a long time, but I knew it was time for a change. So I find out that I love helping these people, and I say to good old Ryan Stewman, I'm like, hey man, you got one coach in your Apex Executives program right now besides you, and I'd like to do that one day. And that was it. I just planted a seed. And fast forward 6 or 8 months later, and the guy hits me up and he's like, hey, he goes, we're kind of blowing this thing up over here a bit. We need good people who have actually gone in and done the work and seen success from it. Because listen, Callie, this is nothing new to you, I'm sure. But, a lot of people join masterminds or coaching or networking groups, whatever you want to call it. They come in, they're given a checklist of work like, hey, if you really want to succeed, you do these 10 steps. Yeah. And I would say 85 to 90% of the people don't do any of the work.
Yeah, it's pretty astonishing. And the more expensive it is, I do see a slight change, but you'd be really, well, you wouldn't be, but like for the audience, you guys would be really surprised how much somebody will spend like 4 figures, 5 figures, and not do the thing. And I kind of want to get into some reasons why I think that, but I want to hear this story. So
Yeah, I have my opinions on those reasons too, which we can definitely touch on. But let me wrap up the story here. So I come in, I start coaching at the executive level with Ryan, and the first client he throws at me is an insurance. It's insurance brokerage. I'm like, what do I know about insurance? Like, how can I help this person? And again, business is a universal language.
Yeah.
So I come in, I start having conversations with this woman, and I start helping her. And I start helping her with not just business related issues, but hey, something popped up at home. I need your opinion on it because you're a male and you may have a different view of this situation. So it's almost like a therapy session, some of the stuff that we're going into and talking about. And I start helping this woman succeed in multiple areas of life, not just business. Yeah. And that's when I was like, wow, this is really cool. The funny story here is fast forward a year and she became our first female Apex executives coach.
Oh, wow. There you go.
The one who did the work. So really cool to see it come full circle. So this past May, 2020, sitting home, drinking a lot of beer, eating a lot of Oreos. Everyone's kind of in this whole, the sky is falling, quarantine mindset, which cool, whatever. And I got caught up in it pretty good. I said, all right, well, I can either continue going down this path of self-destruction and negativity, or I can get to work on me and kind of gain some traction on my competition, because I guarantee you right now, they're still sitting on the couch eating Oreos and drinking a beer. And that's what I did. I went to work on me physically and mentally, put some good hard effort into it, wound up losing a bunch of weight, and got real clear on a couple of things. And the biggest epiphany that I had was that I wasn't living in alignment with one of my core values, one of my personal core values, which is I refuse to be average. And I looked around me and I was like, all right, I built an average business. Not that my business is bad, by no means. I mean, my business is sustaining. I get a check every week, no matter what, but it doesn't excite me, right? It seemed average to me. The home that I was living in at the time, I'm living in an average home. Again, nothing wrong with it, but I refuse to be average as a core value of mine, and I'm not living with an integrity to that value. So I see, okay, I got to make a change. If I don't make a change, then I'm living out of integrity, right?
Wow. And you're the measurement stick there. So you have to be honest with yourself, right? You have to really say, is this exciting me? Is this lighting me up? If that's your core value and you say, well, what is average? And average is like, you don't think about it. You just walk into your house. You don't say, damn, this place is great, right? Yep. That's average. It's normal to you. It might be $1 million house. It might be $100,000 house. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. The numbers are relevant. It's what's here in you. Right?
Yeah. You're the measurement.
Yeah. And it's different for everybody. So nobody can judge you on it, in my opinion.
Love that.
So I talked to the wife, and my wife has kind of been my rock my entire life, my career that I've been with her. And since day one, she's been my ride or die. She's always had my back and supported me 100% wholeheartedly. And 2 years prior, we had started talking about moving out of New York because we wanted a better opportunity for our children than what we had. Not that we grew up rough, by no means. We grew up middle class. We didn't have, bad childhoods. Not like none of that, the normal struggle you see with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like we had they were very chill childhoods. We grew up okay. But I just knew that there was more opportunity, for business for me. There was more opportunity for my wife. And of course, most importantly, my children. It's like, what can I build for my kids? How can I set them up for further and future success? And we honestly felt limited living in the New York area. And we looked at a couple different states, and Texas kept popping up. And, being an Apex member and being an Apex executives coach for over a year at that point, I mean, I was coming down here once a month for our meetups and see the area. I got to see and know the people. I got to experience the area of North Dallas more as a local than as a visitor. So it was natural for us to just come down here and explore a little further. And we did. And September 25th, we moved here full time from New York. And I had zero intentions of coming to work for Ryan Stewman and Break Free Academy. And as you can see behind me, I've got Step It Up Academy, which is one of my LLCs I have. And I had started building my own masterminding and coaching program. And I get, working on the marketing, putting all the videos together and writing all the email content and setting up the like all of that stuff, all the back end stuff that no one, all the not so sexy entrepreneurship
actual work.
Yeah, the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm dumping some money into it. I'm putting time into it. I know that I'm working on the exit of my company at the time. And on a random Wednesday afternoon, I get a phone call from the team at Break Free Academy. And they're like, hey, you want to come help us out and work with us for a bit? And it kind of hit me out of left field. And I was surprised, but I wasn't. And long story short, I wound up making the commitment. And I said, yeah, I'm on board. Like, I'm bought in. I know the community already. I know the people. I know, again, this is kind of like coming from the ground up of actually doing the work as the blue collar guy and then coming into the CEO role. The same thing here. I came into the organization as a client first. So I got to experience the client journey, the client experience from step one all the way up to the elevated levels within the program. And now I'm a coach. And then now here I have the opportunity to come on as the COO. So now I could take all of those observations that I was having over the past 3 and 4 years, and I could say, I know how to make that better. I know how to make that better very quickly. Here's what we do.
Wow. I love that. I really like what you said about business being the universal language, because it's like a common question that I'll hear, not just about product, but about people's product businesses. They'll say like, oh, I see that you've worked on this motorcycle product, but I'm making a bike product. Can you grow bike product businesses? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I know manufacturing, but like connecting with manufacturing, the quality and building a supply chain, it's pretty much the same. Like I don't want to overcomplicate what I'm doing. It's the same. You just do it. If you do it a million times, it's the same. But like the business around it, it's like we're using principles that were out there 1,000 years ago. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's obsessed with tactics and like, oh, well, what's the targeting tweak for the perfect Facebook ad? And I'm like, here's the targeting tweak for the best Facebook ad. Have a message that resonates with a particular group of people so deeply that your ads convert.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they're like, but how do I target? And I'm like, you should know how to target, because who are you serving? Right.
Yeah.
And we go back from tactics and ascend through strategies into principles. And it's like those principles 1,000 years from now, they'll never change. But I find that people are obsessed. And maybe it's because they're working in their business and they have that specific roadblock, but they're like obsessed with tactics. I think more so now, but I mean, in the past year than like I've ever seen before. People, they want the like one simple trick.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Tactics are definitely important, and there's a time and a place for them. Yeah. But you can't, it's funny. What I see with most small business owners in particular is they get so damn close and in love with the business and the product that they offer, and they get so into the day-to-day. It's kind of like they have their head down and they're focused on a dot.
Yeah. And
what they need to do is pick their head up so they can actually look above and see, look over the tree line, look over the weeds and see the big picture. As the CEO, a C-suite executive of a small business, whatever you want to call yourself, president, founder, I don't care what title you have. It's your job, it's your duty and obligation to set the vision for your company. Whether you're a one-man band or you got 100 people working for you, you have to set the vision and say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is who we do it for. And this is where I see us going with this over the next 1, 3, 5, 10, 100 years.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I'm really harping on people right now that if you go out and you start a business, right? So you are the technician, you're the person doing the thing, and now you start a business doing that thing. Why did you do it? Right? And it might be because you perceive there's opportunity that you're not capturing. maybe you want to grow as a person, but I'm like, that's awesome. All that stuff is good. So what we have to realize is the business in that aspect, it's a vehicle for us to achieve our personal goals. So if we can look at the business like this is a big strategy for us to grow as people, I'm looking for people that are interested in personal development. And so if we can shift the mind for like, I want a hack to make money to I want the pieces that will help me progress as a person. So I get that elevation and I can, from the mountain, I can see the valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, everybody's like looking at this pinhole. And I find that like those people are more successful through whatever program that they're in because they get that reading list. They read the reading list and they come back and they ask questions and they develop as a person. And then all of the other stuff, right? You talk to an accountant and then it makes contextual sense. So I don't know. I'd like to hear your theory about why people drop out, but I find that people that are interested in personal development, they have a way better chance.
Yeah. So it's funny. I don't really see people that are dropping out so much. So what we see heavily, and again, there's nothing wrong with this because if the person comes in with intention and they're clear on their reasons and what they want to get out of the mastermind program, cool. That's for them to decide, not you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We have, I wouldn't say a lot. We have a handful of people who come in. They're already extremely successful entrepreneurs, business owners. Maybe they own multiple businesses. They'll come in and they don't care about doing the work. They don't care about some of the online courses. They want to come in, meet in person, and establish relationships with other people that then turn into business opportunities.
Oh, that makes sense. Yep.
Cool. I get it. Again, we have right now we've got 108 people in our Apex Executives program. Okay. We charge $40,000 a year to join that program. Okay. It's not small potatoes by no means. And of those 100 people, I'd say we have about 20 to 30 people right now who aren't interested in doing the work. They're just there for the network.
Wow.
And I've got to respect it. I understand it too. And the cool thing is when these people show up to our events, it's not as if they're just like value vampires. They're not just taking. They're still giving out the value when they come in person. They're still sharing their real world experiences. When another member comes up and says, "Hey, I'm struggling to put together a partnership agreement, or I'm thinking about partnering with this person. What are some things I need to look out for?" These are some of the people who have the real world experience who pop up and answer those questions and provide value to the room.
That still makes a lot of sense because there's a culture there, there's shared values there. And because of the cost, it's a curated group of people. Like everybody agrees to a certain level of understanding. And then like, hey, everybody that's in this room can, plus or minus, they can afford $40K to be here. So if we talk about business, this person, most likely they run a real business,
Yeah.
They're here with intent, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about core values because that's what I made the name of the live stream. And when I think Thomas, I think core values. One, because you sent me your book, which is awesome. And so Unfuck Your Business, go check it out on Amazon. Thomas should charge like 10 times as much for the book.
I give it away as cheap as Amazon lets me.
Yeah. So I think it's like $3.99 right now. So it's kind of a no-brainer buy, but yeah, it does just dives right in deep right away into core values and why you need that and where it fits in your business. So I'd love to hear your hot take on all that.
Yeah, sure.
To the audience.
It all goes back to real world experience. I don't write or speak about anything that I haven't done or experienced. I don't think it's right. And so go back to my last company, Top Class Installations. We were 6 or 7 years into it, probably at that point, and we kept running into the same problem. We kept hiring people, and within a 90-day window, we would find out that person just was not the right person to have in that role. I don't care what their qualifications were. I don't care what the resume said. For some reason, and I couldn't put the pieces together why we would hire these people, right? We'd put these ads together. We'd hire them. No real process, by the way. We'll get into that in a second. And we would have this horrible outcome. Like it was like a toxic relationship. And part of the problem was, when you just need a warm body and you need to fill a role, like you're busy, you've got to get people in. That's a troublesome issue right there.
Yeah.
If you have no hiring process and no onboarding or training process for those people that you bring in, you have no ascension ladder for them to climb once they come into the company. Those are other, major issues. And we didn't have any of them at the time. So I come in and I go see my coach, Dean, and I said, hey, man, I said, we go into his office that morning and he's like, you want a cup of coffee? Sure. We go into the kitchen, get a cup of coffee. He looks over at me and he's like, you okay? I said, man, not really. Like I'm like beat up. I'm mentally drained. I said, we just had the third hire, back to back hire that went to crap within that window.
Wow.
And he looks at me and he says, man, I've been telling you for 6 months that you need to implement core values into your company and you have yet to do it.
You're like, all right, boss.
Exactly. So I was like, I bit my tongue. I wanted to say something not so nice, but he was right. He was 100% right.
Yeah.
I said, okay. I took a deep breath. We walked back to his office, 2 hot cups of coffee. I sat down. He said, are you ready? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. And we went to work. And the first round of core values that we developed for Top Class at the time took us 6 months to finalize them. And one of the reasons it took so damn long is anytime that you have a partner in a company, this is not a bad thing. So don't take it that way. It complicates getting clear on those values because my personal values and my partner's values, yes, they overlap, but they're not the same. We're 2 different people. And it took some time for us to figure out what was best for the company.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was the start of us getting clear on and establishing a vision in the company. And the way that I've learned it, and it's been taught to me, vision is 3 equal components. Your vision is your purpose, why you're in business. Your vision is your mission. So it's who are your customers? Who are you? What are you serving them? And by when? It has to be a goal. And last but not least, the third leg of the stool is your core values. And they're equally important parts. If you don't have one of those legs of the stool, I don't know if you've ever tried to sit in a 2-legged stool. It's not that easy.
That's funny that you say that. That's actually one of the things that's in that I always talk about is if you've ever sat in a 4-legged stool, right? Or just like a table at a restaurant, it can teeter around, right? 3 points on a plane. So like a 3-legged stool or 3-legged table, it never teeters. It can be a little off kilter, but it's stable, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we deal with companies that are just starting out, I'm like, look, you can't have 2 of the same person, right? You got to have different people, different perspectives, and you come together on that vision, that mission, right? But we have a CEO type person. So like the sales, the outside. Got a COO. That's the inside. I like to call them the adult. Right? Right. And then we have the CTO, right? That's like the product person. So like, if we're doing digital products, like, what does that look like? What platform is it on? What is it going to be structured? But somebody's setting the vision and selling the vision on the outside. Somebody's setting the vision, selling it internally, and then somebody's having it make sense. And when you have those 3 components, and they don't all have to be owners, but it seems like that's stability, right? And it's been helpful. A lot of startup teams, they just start with like 2 programmers, or like in blue collar, it would be like 2 roofers. Mm-hmm. It's like, I like talking to people. I'm like, great. You're not a roofer anymore. You're a CEO.
Yeah. It's funny because that's exactly how my partner and I started. We both grew up in the car audio game. That's where I met the guy, and we start this business, and here we are. We're just 2 installers putting crap in vehicles.
Yeah.
And we had to separate, and it wound up being me. I was the one who pulled myself out of the field after a certain amount of time because I realized, I said, oh, I see the big picture here. If my head's underneath the dashboard installing electronics devices all day in these vehicles, I can't be focused on the growth of this business.
Right.
And it was a battle at first, and it was something that didn't happen overnight. People think that, you know, all of a sudden one day it just I flipped a switch and I got out of the field. And like, no, that wasn't reality. The reality was it took us many years to build that business. There were many years where, or I would say, yes, probably 2 years where I was trying to pull myself out of the field every day more and more. And then a big project would come up and we didn't have the manpower to get the work done. So guess what? As a responsible business owner, I don't care what your title says, get your ass in the field and get the work done.
Hell yeah. 3 years ago, we grew so much. So that I ended up running a night shift and I was assembling our product, right? Because we added about 6 million in revenue in 1 year. And in manufacturing, you can't just, you know, spin up more servers or whatever. So we hired over that year, maybe year and a half, we hired 15 people and we got 3 amazing people, 5 good people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that really struck it with my brother and I is like, we need to get better at hiring, better at firing, better at agreeing who's doing a good job. And we really focused in on, you know, if you have the core values, you can literally make a spreadsheet and say, hey, here's this person. Are they a plus, a minus, or a neutral, right? Are they a 0, a -1, or a 1? And you just tally it up and say, well, these are the things that I like about the people that we have. These are the attributes that I like. And okay, so that's pretty much our status of our idealized culture and how many of these people have it. And they're like, we shouldn't have anybody that's a negative number, let's just say. And you do the list and then you look at it and say, oh shit, like I got some work to do, right? I got to start selling culture, selling these values, training people on that, or I got to start hiring people.
Yeah. You just nailed it, man. And it's something that, you know, I've been through as well. But you can't take that step. You can't start grading those people unless you establish the core values.
Yeah.
And that's like this magical step that everyone tries to rush and skip over. And it just doesn't work that way.
Make them aspirational and sound good to like sound good to your mom or sound good to a customer.
Yep.
And so what's cool about this, and this is why I like the book, is like core values and mission statement and all that stuff. It fits in this bucket where people look at it and they say, oh, that's just like woo-woo nonsense stuff. And I keep coming back to this is that little lessons like this, they seem like they don't have to do with your business and it's woo-woo and it's, you know, like we're just navel gazing, right? And then when we start putting it into the system, we realize like, oh, that's the center from all of these other decisions are going to get made. What products should we sell? Well, it's based on that vision. What are we actually trying to achieve for ourselves, for our customer? Who are we serving? Callie, what's a winning product that I should sell? And I'm like, okay, let me ask you, what are the books that are on your nightstand about? Like this, and this. Okay. Well, if you could only invite, like you can invite anybody that's your friend in the world and you could fly them in and you could spend the weekend with them. Like, what do those people have in common? They're just like, what do these questions mean? I'm like, because you're going to build a business that is a jail, not freedom, right? You're going to build your own fancy prison because you're going to sell winning products to people that you don't care about. You're going to sell stuff that you don't care about. And eventually that you won't care about the business either. So you say something similar to me, but I say fight average, right? Because it's like average is constantly the status quo, right, of reality. It wants you to just settle for something. And in a business, it's really easy to just be like, this is, I don't know, I'm going to make some money next month. And then you get dissatisfied with it. So, but at any rate, that's like all over the place. But at any rate, like,
no, it makes a good point though.
All these decisions, it comes back to like the core values, like what's important to you.
Yeah. I think business owners, one of the biggest areas I see people fail, like you said, they build a business or they build a product and they kind of paint themselves into a corner and they got this thing all of a sudden that, you know, it's an animal to manage and they hate it.
Yeah.
So my advice to someone who's starting a business right now is, what do the results look like? What do they want? What do you want them to be for you personally?
Yeah.
Figure out what you want. Figure out what your ideal day looks like. Is your ideal day, sitting in an office and meeting with clients, or is it going fishing with your 8-year-old son 3 days a week? Okay. And again, this isn't for me to determine, nor you. This is for that person, and it's very personal.
Yep.
Figure out what that ideal day is, and then go build the business that's going to give you that lifestyle.
Yeah, man. It's like, what does your health look like? Not just physical health, but mental health, right? What does your stress look like? We can get better, just like lifting weights. We can get stronger with stress over time. What we can take can evolve and change. But what do your connections look like? Your family, your wife or your girlfriend, your friends. Like, some people, it's the most important thing in the world that they have Friday night out with their friends.
Mhm.
Okay. That could change, but if you pour all of your attention, time, money, emotion, effort into a bucket, and it takes away all these things that are important to you, it's like, what are we doing? So I think we're trained to walk a path and not ask what we want. I think it's like, as a broad, like, cultural statement. So when I ask people, like, well, how much money are you going to make? They're like, well, I think I can do this entrepreneur math, and I can project how much money I can make with this opportunity. I'm like, no. Like, how much money are you trying to make? Like, are you trying to make $30 million in 10 years, sell this business? Because that's going to be it's a totally different business to build than like $1 billion business that you're going to get, funding for, or just something cool that you do on the weekends for extra money. Right. And there's nothing wrong with any of those businesses. It's just intent is important. So you look at the health, wealth, and our connections, and people are like, their mind is blown, their mind is blown. But it's so powerful. What you said is so powerful.
Yeah. Those pieces overlap. We talk about it heavily at Break Free Academy too. Ryan Stewman, he wrote a book called GCode, and it's something that we all live by, and it's something that definitely changed my life too. There's 4 key areas of life that we focus on each and every day, and I'll rattle them off very quickly because it's not that complicated. And that's the funny thing. Like, this works, and some people fight us because it's too simple. Right. So number 1, wake up with a mindset with gratitude. So write down 5 things you're grateful for each and every morning. First thing, before you do anything else, wake up, 5 things you're grateful for. Number 2, make sure you work on yourself physically each and every day. Could be go for a walk, ride a bike, go to the gym, yoga, Pilates, karate. I don't care what you do. Go do something. Get your body moving every day. Number 3 is your grind. Okay. You're going to work on your work, whatever that is, every day. So, even if you're not going into work that day, even if you're an employee, okay, how many hours do you have free in between, your shifts or your days off and whatnot? Go start that e-com store. Go start that business that you've been dreaming about and talking about forever. Go put work in to enhance or build this lifestyle, this dream that you have. Go put it and make it a reality. Go put that work in each and every day. And it could be something simple. It could be you just sending an email to the right person. Check off the box. You completed it. Right. And then number 4 is your group. You have to intentionally put time into your group each and every day. And your group is several different things. For someone like yourself and me as a business owner, that's our employees. That's our family. That's my kids here at home. That's my wife. It's my dog. That's, friends and family back in New York. It's friends and family here in Texas at my new home. So you have to intentionally put time into your group each and every day. And if you hit these 4 areas every day, and again, they're just micro wins you're looking for. You're not looking to go conquer the planet here. But if you do enough of this each and every day, and you stay consistent with it each and every day, you will be able to conquer the planet.
Wow, that's so powerful. And if anybody pushes back and says that's so simple, well, then go do it. If it's so easy, go do it. Consistency is more difficult than simple tasks, right? So if you can keep that up for 30, 60, 90 days, if you can keep up that discipline, your life will change, I'm sure. That's super powerful. I'm going to have to look more into that, but I think you just broke it down. So it might
Easy,
be
man.
easy. Well, simple.
Simple, not easy. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
There you
Well,
go. Thomas, this has been awesome, man. It's always a good to connect with you and get a chance to chat, man. But before we head out, can you let everybody know what's the best place for people to follow everything that you're doing?
yeah. So 2 places. Number 1, head over to tomaskeenan.com. That's my website. There's links to my book there and a bunch of other stuff, blogs, podcasts, all that kind of stuff is there. Number 2, head over to connectwiththomas.com. And that's just in email marketing terms or online marketing terms, it's a landing page, and it has a link to every place that I exist on the internet. So you'll find links to podcasts, you'll find links to websites, you'll find links to my book and a bunch of other cool things that I like.
It's amazing. All right. Thanks, brother. Hey, little call to action for the audience here. If you have a question that, if answered, would take your life, take your business to the next level, DM me. Okay. Let me know what that is. I take those questions and I reach out to my network, and that's how I bring on rock stars like Thomas here so we can chat. We had a great conversation. We touched on a lot of things. We talked about core values, and that's something that I know people are interested in. And that's just an example. So do me a favor. That's how we drive up and make sure that this content is hyper tactical and super helpful for the End Hype movement. Thomas, again, I really appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. This has been End Hype. Callie Keen, I'm out.